everybody. Welcome to the City Girls Pod. And this is the show where we are recapping Sex in the City. And we are finishing up season 5. I cannot believe it. It's crazy how fast this has gone. But I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and Jax is here.
Hi.
And we have special guest, one of my favorite people. And I'm so excited that you are coming on to talk Sex in the City. Dory Benford is here. Thank you so much, Dory.
Hi, thank you for inviting me.
Yes. So were you a big Sex in the City fan, or have you discovered it more recently?
I was a big Sex and the City fan. I think the show premiered when I was in high school and it ended when I was in college. But watching the episodes we're going to talk about, I realized I imprinted on that show hard, because the second the episode started, I was like, I remember everything. I remember what they were wearing. I remember what they say. I remember everything. And I haven't rewatched the show in years, and I still remembered everything. And it was just so fun to kind of go back into that place. I felt like I was, in my early 20s, and it was just so fun to realize how much of that show has just become a part of me.
Well, and I think these later seasons I've actually seen more than some of the early seasons, in season 1 at least, because I feel like these later seasons are the ones that are on TBS and TNT or whatever for reruns, and that's how I got kind of introduced to the show, because I never really had HBO until fairly recently. So it's been kind of fun watching the season 5. I look forward to it, and I think season 6 is going to be very fun. What do you think, Jax?
Yeah, I mean, I think exactly what Dory's saying, that I don't think we realize how much of this show is in our psyches and in pop culture. The whole he's just not that into you, or how long it takes to get over a breakup, and all these things that we just sort of hear in the zeitgeist about relationships. It is kind of a chicken or egg situation. Was it Sex and the City that said it first, or did they hear it somewhere and then popularize it? So yeah, it's really been really thrilling getting to cover this.
Well, so we realized that there are only 8 episodes in season 5 because SUP was pregnant during this year. So that's why. So we're just covering 2 episodes on this episode, but they're pretty big episodes. So it's going to be fun. And the first episode 7, is called The Big Journey. And the main part of this episode is Samantha and Carrie going on a big old epic train ride.
And a 3-day train ride.
Yes. I mean, have either of you ever taken Amtrak? Have you ever done a longer train ride?
I've taken Amtrak. I was doing an indie film upstate, and it was a 6-hour Amtrak. I mean, I'm used to Bolt bus and Mega bus. So I was living in luxury, but I can't imagine taking it across the country for 3 days. I think that would be a whole thing.
Yeah, I've been on Amtrak before, but they've always been short trips. I could never, and probably would never, take a train for multiple days across the country. I feel you. I don't know if I could do that.
Why, Dory? We could shower over the toilet. I mean, who wouldn't want to do that?
And we can sit next to people we don't know and eat lunch with them, and they can overhear all of our inappropriate for public consumption thoughts. Sounds like a great time.
I mean, I guess at least you'd be sitting next to all people who are evidently faithful to their wives. So that's good. Unless you're Samantha.
This was very nice. Not great for poor Samantha, man. We'll get into it, but I have so many thoughts.
Yeah, I have never taken an Amtrak. I've taken trains before, little bits. More when I've been to Europe, I've ended up taking some trains, but I don't know, not that many here in the US. But I've always thought about it and wondered about it, and but I get worried because I get motion sickness very easy. So the idea of being on a train all day, it just sounds risky to me.
Yeah.
I thought about it a lot in when my parents were in Sacramento area, because it was only like $80 to one way to go there. And sometimes, especially in the holidays, the flights could be pretty expensive. Mm-hmm. So I thought about it, but I was just like, I don't want to get sick.
Yeah.
That's my worry.
Yeah.
You would have fit right in with Carrie and Samantha on this journey, though.
Yeah. Did Carrie ever explain why she took the train?
She said flying makes her nervous.
Yeah, it was a very like post 9/11 comment. She was like, I don't like the National Guard going through my makeup case or whatever. I think it kind of spoke to that anxiety, that of just not feeling that easy, feeling uneasy flying, and kind of that time period, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Oh, I'm glad you pointed that out, because I didn't even connect that. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I was like, National Guard, what? And then I was like, oh, yeah.
Because it had just happened.
Yeah.
Just happened. Samantha said that they should change the name to Same York, not New York.
I love how cranky she was this episode.
Yeah.
My heart was going out to her, because I feel like most people, if not all people, have been in a state like that where they're really down and just nothing will make you feel better. And I think that's just where she's at right now. She's just really, I think, in a bad place over things ending with Richard and all the hurt that came with that relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, so she says that she should open a brothel, but then Charlotte says women don't think like that. It's not an animal urge. We need to feel things. What do you think, Jack? You think she's right? Charlotte's right?
I mean, I think she's right for a lot of women. I don't know if that sweeping statement is necessarily true, because I think that we've seen it plenty of times with Samantha in this show. And now Carrie's saying that's what she wants, but then she's also saying she wants it with Big, and we all know how she feels about Big. So it's hard to tell.
Well, I mean, we say that about Samantha, but then she's just been through this super needy relationship with Richard. So she's not as sort of independent from feelings as she maybe plays on.
Yeah, but I feel like for years she really was. Like, I don't think that was a lie or charade. Like, I feel like she really just had these physical connections that she just wanted to be physical connections for at least a decent amount of time.
I mean, it's true, because with Maria, it was too much feelings, too much talking. I don't know. What do you think, Dory, about that?
I think that was a very Charlotte thing to say. And, there's probably some truth to it, but not really. Open your brothel, Samantha. Do it. There is a population for everything. There is a group for everything. Do it.
I would say that on the whole, I do think that women are more emotional than typically, in as far as relationships go, than most men, at least from my observation, but certainly not all of them, and certainly not every situation, and it varies some, but yeah, I mean, it's the Charlotte in me. So Harry delivers Charlotte's divorce papers, and he's like super sweating. And this is basically a turn on to Charlotte. And I just love Harry so much.
I know. How fun is it to see like the start of Harry and Charlotte? Like, it's really fun. Like I was saying, when I started watching this episode, I knew that they were in the midst, even though I hadn't been watching or anything, I knew that they were in the midst of her divorce. And I was like, oh my gosh, we get the beginnings of Harry. And it was just so funny. Like they are so opposite, and you see how opposite they are, and they still just like are obsessed with each other.
Yeah.
And even though he's like sweating on her divorce papers and he's got the tissue stuck to his sweaty bald head and like it's just hilarious. Like I think overall this episode had so many fun kind of like hijinks moments. And the Harry situation felt like that too, just like pure comedy every time he was on screen.
Yeah, and I love Charlotte's face because it's like she's looking at him with a strange mixture of like utter disgust, but also intrigue and also kind of being turned on by him at the same time. It's like she doesn't know how to process all the feelings that are coursing through her body and her brain. And I just love watching her try and deal with that. And let's be real, I think we can all agree that Harry's confidence is so sexy. It's so charming.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they're both like nerdy in the same way. Like they're different, but they're both kind of, I don't know, nerdy. I can't think of another way to describe it. And
yeah, they definitely fit. Like
they fit. Yeah.
How they would fit.
Well, Carrie and Samantha are taking the train, and I liked the train outfits that they had on. It was Carrie had on a black top with like embroidery kind of on it, and then Samantha is wearing a orange skirt suit with a pink top. I still don't love Samantha's hair in this season. It looks a little mullety to me, but but I thought they looked good for getting on there. I think they think this is going to be more like a cruise.
I think they think it's going to be like a luxurious kind of experience you'd see like in old movies and stuff, like when they go to eat and Carrie's like, I thought there would be white linen tablecloths. She's thinking of that experience. And it is not. It is a 3-day commuter train with like a little bit of extra space if you're sleeping. So because even I love the part when they are walking they're walking next to the train and they hear the all aboard and they squeal and they start running. They're like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be so great. And then they get in there and it's just like oh no, what have we gotten ourselves into?
Yeah, it's Samantha says, I'm starting to understand why there is a murder on the Orient Express.
That line is amazing.
The best.
Yeah. One little thing that I thought was interesting is the guy who plays the waiter in the dining car. I was like, I know that voice. I know who that is. And it's Roscoe Orman, who played Gordon on Sesame Street as the waiter.
Oh my gosh, no way.
Yeah. How random is that?
I love that.
Quite a lot of range in his career there.
Yeah.
Yeah, from Sesame Street to Sex and the City.
Good.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast.
The Last Way Home is the newest novel from New York Times bestselling author Liz Johnson.
Eli Ross's return from his NHL career is met with uncertainty from the broken family he left behind, but he is determined to fix his mistakes.
Violet Donaghy isn't sure she can forgive Eli, not after his mother cared for her like her own daughter.
When Eli and Violet come together, they must find the strength to mend the broken pieces of the Ross family and to heal their own hearts.
Find more at www.lizjohnsonbooks.com.
That's lizjohnsonbooks.com. Harry tells Charlotte about this bachelor pad that he's selling, this apartment, or that he's subletting. And it's kind of similar to like on Pillow Talk, the bachelor apartment, in that movie, or it's like this, all this leopard print and all this other stuff. And Harry says, I think you are the sexiest woman I've ever met. I fantasize about your perfect lips.
I like to be sure it's like, I'm wearing my glasses.
I know.
Like, there's no way. And it's like, okay, you're adorable.
Yeah.
I love that scene. I love that scene. I mean, it's hard to resist a guy like being that forward and complimentary, especially because there's chemistry there already. And for him to verbalize all of that, I think was a really big turn on for her, especially going through what she had just been through. I think she needed that kind of confidence boost.
Yeah, I think so. And then Samantha says, I got on a train for you. You're going on the back car with me. And then they get back there and they find out it's just a group of married men. They're not going to be what Samantha wants them to be. That's for sure.
I was laughing so hard when Carrie was trying to cover her pimple and she put on all the blush and she's like, I look like I'm like the star of my high school play or something. She did. We all remember it's like what we would put on, or like how we would like draw on like the fake age lines or whatever, and like the thick eyebrows. And I was like, yeah, you do look like, and she just waltzes right in. I think her pimple's like kind of sexy. It's cute.
Yeah. She's all like, they all love their wives.
I know, like it's the worst thing that ever happened to her. Samantha is a trooper, though, to go through this for her friend. Like she has no skin in this game. She did not need to take a train to San Francisco, and she's not getting the attention she wanted. She is not getting the luxurious surroundings she wanted. She's a trooper. She's a good friend.
Yeah, I think that Carrie was probably thinking more of a cruise where it's going to be a little bit. I feel like going on a cruise is kind of similar to like being at a Sizzler. You know, like everything looks nice, it's yummy, but it's not like higher level, you know, but it's certainly
a good analogy, Rachel. I like
that. And I feel like the entertainment is kind of on that level as well, like a Sizzler's level. I mean, I still would love to go on the Disney cruise sometime. I think that would probably be more my jam, but I think that's more what they were expecting than this, like you're saying, more of a commuter type of experience.
Yeah.
So I love this whole scene between Charlotte and Anthony. It's really fun when she's telling him about the best sex of her life with Harry, and he says, ugly sex is hot.
I love how excited he is for her. Like he's such a hype man. It's really fun.
Me too. Yeah. And I love their setting. They're like watching go-go dancers right in front of them having this conversation. It's just perfect. But yeah, I love their friendship.
So they get to go San Francisco finally, and they get to the book signing, and it turns out Mr. Winkle is there. She's like, I'm opening for a dog.
Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I do feel like that would be quite the different audience.
Yeah.
For Mr. Winkle versus Carrie's book.
I love that we get to see Molly Shannon again, and she's like, what can I say, Carrie? The publisher effed me on this one. Like, she's so mad.
Yeah.
And she did.
We were saying, Dory, that we think they should do a full-on spin-off show about Amy Sedaris and Molly Shannon, publishers.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I love them both. I really worship Amy Sedaris. I think she is so weird in the best possible way, and so fun and so funny. And everyone follow her on Instagram. Her Instagram makes me laugh. Yes. The things she posts are just perfectly Amy Sedaris, like completely bizarre and amazing. I love her.
Well, I've mentioned it before on the show. If you want a good little binge, check out I Love That For You. This was on Showtime, I think, but it's such a good show with Molly Shannon. It's about Vanessa Bayer plays this woman whose dream was to always be like a QVC host. because she would watch the QVC when she was in the hospital for leukemia when she was a little girl. And so that was her dream. She always wanted to do. So she ends up getting her chance, and she's almost going to be fired on her first day because she kind of messes up. And so she tells everybody that she has cancer. So then they feel bad about firing her because she has cancer. But then obviously the lie kind of gets out of control. And Molly Shannon plays like the pro QVC lady. She's great. It's such a good show. It's
so funny.
It's, if you like Ted Lasso, if you like kind of endearing shows, then you'll like it. And I just think it needs more love. We need more because it's so good. But yeah, Mr. Winkle is evidently a big draw. People are really excited about.
He's so cute though. Like I get it. And when Carrie's sitting next to him and she's like, yeah, book tours are rough, and they're just sitting side by side. It's really adorable.
It's so cute. And she says, I love your top because of his little shirt. I love that part. Yeah. Oh my gosh, it makes me laugh.
Yeah. So then Big is there at the signing, and he has read her book cover to cover. Which it's got to be hard doing a memoir type of book, because that's just got to be tough. Like the people in your life reading what you think about them, even if it's a loose kind of adaptation. I think that would be really hard.
I really thought that this is where I started to think that, okay, maybe Big has matured enough that he could eventually be with Carrie, because it's like he didn't actually see what a jerk he was before, but now that he is a little bit older, has a little bit more distance, and can actually self-reflect because of the book about what he did. I don't know, like it actually kind of warmed my heart a little.
Yeah. What do you think, Dory, about Big in general and about in these scenes?
I like that he took what she said to heart. It clearly really mattered. It matters to him what she thinks of him, regardless of how he tries to play it. Like, her opinion of him matters. And I think that kind of, you could see that in this whole storyline. Like, he's up all night pacing, reading passages of her book about him to her to then analyze them. And she's like, I'm over it. It's over. The book isn't even a bestseller. I love when she said that. She's like, get over it. But he can't.
Hey, this is Jen Johans, host of the podcast Watch with Jen, which delivers a steady stream of great movie recommendations, thoughtful career deep dives, and first-rate conversations with film critics, authors, actors, journalists, filmmakers, and more. You can find Watch with Jen wherever you get your podcasts, or hear us first at our Patreon at patreon.com/filmintuition.
And the way I've always felt about Carrie and Big is that your person is your person, and there's kind of no stopping that train. There's no stopping that fate. You know, is he the best guy? No. Is she the best girl? No. But I mean, I think that you can't deny their chemistry and kind of their pull toward one another. And I think that that's kind of the thing about love, right? Your person is your person, regardless of a lot. You overlook a lot, a lot of times, if that is your person. Mm-hmm. And I feel like they are, fated in a way.
Are we supposed to assume that basically Big hasn't been reading her column? I mean, I guess he says that it's different to have it all compiled together than every week. And so that might be true, but he might also be like a Samantha and not read Carrie's column.
Well, and I also wonder, a lot of times she probably added stuff she didn't initially put in the columns. Like there might have been some surprises in there,
Yeah. And is Big the only person that we think in her column that she has an a pseudonym for? Because we never hear about it with Aiden, any, fake name.
Yeah, I'm curious. Well, I know she called, like when she was dating the politician, she was like calling him a politician or whatever. But I'm very curious I would actually love to. I mean, obviously it's such an iconic show and it's so well written and well acted. I would like to know a little bit more about the actual content of the columns though.
Me
like
too,
I love how
for sure.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
For sure. Like, yeah. They should do a book with all of her columns based on the show. Why haven't they done that? I'd buy that and read it in a second.
Hot second. Yeah, 100%. Because there's enough like meat on the bones there that like, we've got the question of the episode and then the answer and all these things that I feel like, yeah, someone could put that together and it would be a bestseller.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, he's just not that into you was basically that, and it did super well.
Yeah.
So if they actually did a throwback book of Carrie's columns, it probably would do well.
Yeah.
I mean, and just like that, even though it wasn't great, it did well. It got good viewership. Did you watch And Just Like That, Dory?
I haven't watched it yet. I'm sure I will at some point. I've been really hesitant. I think because I don't know. I loved the show so much. I was kind of nervous to see this next iteration. I've obviously heard a lot of the things that happen. And I I was concerned before it started, and then hearing everything that happened, I was concerned as well. So I'm sure I'll watch it at some point. But like, how did you guys feel about it overall?
Well, we had so much fun talking about it that I think our view is different than the average person. But just as well, really, I think that everything with Charlotte was good. That was well done. And the Carrie stuff was hit and miss. Anytime she had this podcast that she did, which was the worst ever. I hated it so much. But everything with Miranda was pretty bad. It just did not feel like her character or who she was, or all of a sudden she was kind of this timid person, this weak person, that just didn't feel like Miranda to me. So that was a miss. I don't know, Jax, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I watched it every week through the lens of being like, oh, I get to talk to Rachel about this. So yeah, it was, I did like a lot of the new characters they introduced and getting to see the women develop relationships with other women that I thought were really fascinating, and more diversity is always good. But yeah, I think the Miranda Steve stuff was the biggest. Big dying didn't even really bug me. Like I felt like that worked for Carrie getting to have all of her Sex in the City moments. The Miranda Steve stuff was bungled so terribly, and I hope they rectify it.
Yeah, they need to fix it because it was not good. It's like they took all the feedback that they'd gotten and then they kind of overcorrected with some of that feedback, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think with even if with Miranda, if we realize that she does need to leave Steve, or I think exploring her journey of her sexuality, there are things about that are great, but I feel like they're trying to have her erase what she and Steve had that we all got so attached to. And it's like, you could just be in a different phase of your life, or you maybe open up your marriage, or you have these discussions. You just don't be like, it was never Steve. That bums me out.
That makes me so sad. I love Steve.
I know. And I sometimes I wonder if people who make stuff in Hollywood have ever listened to an actual podcast, because the way they portray podcasts is so insufferable. I was happy because there's the indie film called Vengeance coming out this week, directed and written by BJ Novak from The Office, and it's a pretty good film, but he plays a podcaster, and it was like by far the most like accurate and best portrayal of a podcaster that I've seen in a movie or show for so long. And I was just like, okay, finally somebody
gets it.
Not like the worst people and insufferable and annoying. This seems like we're usually portrayed. But anyway, I liked when Samantha, she says, I can't go in another small room.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Samantha was such a good friend because when Carrie finds out the Big is there, she kicks Samantha out of their room. Samantha is laid back in a bubble bath, and Carrie is screaming bloody murder through the hotel room. Samantha! Like, this woman has had the train trip from hell. She's exhausted. Your friend has done all of this, and you make her get out of the bath and move rooms. You take the smaller room.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
What are you talking about? Give Samantha the nice suite. She's earned it.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh,
that's
she's a good friend.
All you're using is the bed.
I know.
So I think you're okay to move to the small room. I totally agree.
Yeah,
I know. And it's very Carrie. And this is when I can't stand Carrie. Like the self-involvedness that can happen with her is really frustrating to watch sometimes. It's like, why would you kick your best friend who did this for you? This was a business trip you were supposed to go on alone.
Yeah.
How are you going to pull her out of a bathtub? Ridiculous.
Yeah. Carrie can be more than a little narcissistic. Yes. That's for sure.
Yes. And it shows up in these ways like, I did not like that. I did not like that she did that.
But it is kind of funny to me that Big is saying, when have I ever been cold? Am I a cold person? And I'm thinking, look how you treated Natasha. You're going to pretend like you're not a cold person? I mean, look how you just go through people like they're nothing.
I know.
Yeah. Big's distance from who he is and how he perceives himself, it's just wild. It's staggering.
I know. And I feel like charming people sometimes have this where they think like, but I'm cute and funny and charming. And so, you can't stay mad at me. You can't be mad at me. Like, it wasn't that bad. There's just this revisionist history of like, the person's fine. It wasn't that bad. No, it was actually that bad. And I think that's why I was glad that he freaked out about it and kind of took it to heart. Like, he would not even touch her. He was like, I don't want anything to do. He's like, I don't want to touch you. I want to talk about this. I want to analyze it. I appreciated that because he does have this thing where he's like, let me off the hook. I'm charming and I'm funny. And when we're together, I make you feel amazing. That's got to count for something. You can't always get away with that, you charmers out there.
We'd like to take a second from this episode of the podcast to celebrate our sponsor of this episode, and that is the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast?
Do you want an inside scoop into what happens on the podcast?
Do you want early access to episodes and loads of cool perks?
Now is the time to become a patron of Hallmarkies podcast.
By becoming a patron, you get to access our patron Facebook group.
You can request episodes or even be a guest on the podcast.
And most importantly, any patron can join our monthly movie watch-alongs with stars like Paul Campbell, Natalie Hall, and more.
It's as low as $2 a month to join in and become a special part of the Hallmarkies family.
Please consider, and we will love you forever.
Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
Well, the episode ends off with Carrie getting a plane ticket from Samantha. They're saying we're not going to the train station. We're going to the plane to the airport. And then we have Charlotte and Harry, the Bachelorette and the Beast. That was cute.
Yeah.
So, Jax, what would you give this episode 1 to 10?
Oh, I really like this episode. I think it's really iconic. I always love episodes in TV shows where they take like a field trip I would give this one probably an 8.5.
What do you think, Dory?
I would give it a 9.
Yeah, I think I'm right
it.
there with you guys, probably an 8.5. It's a fun one. It has a lot of genuine laughs, which you don't always get in Sex and the City. So it's a good one. All right, then our last episode, season finale of season 5, is called I Love a Charade. And it's the women head to the Hamptons for the wedding of a flamboyant lounge singer, and Charlotte's affair with her lawyer takes an interesting turn. So, Jax, overall, what do you think of this one?
Oh, this one was so fun. I love Nathan Lane in this role. I love Bitsy Von Mutt playing, or however you say her name. The premise is just so much fun. And I think that, like you said about the last one, Rachel, there's so many laugh out loud moments in this. We have the return of Berger. We have more in depth with Harry. We've got Samantha completely losing her cool. I this one was a fun ride for me.
Yeah. What do you think, Dory?
I feel like this episode, there are just some iconic moments in this episode that I just will never forget. The Samantha losing it at that pool party there's nothing better. Yeah. There's nothing better. That entire scene with those girls, there's nothing better. The Berger of it all comes to mean a lot in the series as we go on. So I really love just the kind of theme of this episode and the questions that are being asked about marriage and relationships and what we want out of them and how people want and need different things out of relationships. And I think it's handled in a really interesting way. And also that pink dress that she wears at the wedding is one of my faves. Yeah. I think she looks beautiful at the wedding scene during the reception scene.
Well, especially when you consider that she's pregnant, so they had to hide it. So they had to pick something more light and flowy.
It's beautiful.
And so it's pretty. I also liked Samantha's dress when she has like that orange kind of 70s wrap dress look. I think it was very good. I mean, what do you think about this whole thing with Bitsy and Bobby getting married? What do you think, Jax?
I mean, I think a couple of things. I don't think we should make judgments on people's sexuality. We should just, whatever they're comfortable with identifying or whatever they want for their life and their relationships and their commitments, I think that we should respect. I understand why it's a surprise and a little bit of a shock, but I think regardless of what's going on with them behind closed doors, it's a commitment that they want to make each other. And it is clear that they are fond of each other. In whatever way that is, we don't know, but we don't really know that about straight couples either. So, well, I mean, we don't really know that about any kind of couple. So yeah, right. I think that the judgment around it made me feel a little bit uncomfortable, but also I can understand getting on the gossip train about it because it's kind of fun.
Mm-hmm. And the Zha Zha Zhu.
Yeah.
Is it going to get in the way? We don't know. Dora, what do you think about that? About Bitsy and Bobby?
I think they look really happy. And I think, isn't that what it's all about? You know, whatever, regardless of the reasons, they both look and seem really happy when they're together, when they're separate. Like, they seem like ecstatic about this moment in their lives. And I don't think that can be dismissed, regardless of what the relationship is built on, regardless of what it is founded on. They look really happy. I do think it can be hard. I mean, I would have reacted like Carrie. This is someone that she has seen or that she has known since the 80s. So she's had such a long history with him in and out of her life. I mean, he said that he's known her since when Stanford had hair. That was a long, these people have been around each other and in each other's lives for decades at this point. So I think it is completely human to be like, whoa, I did not see that coming. I would never have thought that Bobby would be marrying a woman. But But at the end of the day, and I think Carrie comes around to that point, at the end of the day, she's just like, he's happy and I'm gonna be happy for him.
Yeah. And I think also it was like a little bit of a different time than that, now that we have like marriage equality, and I don't know, I just think we're like hopefully a little bit more accepting of things, that maybe this kind of relationship isn't as attractive or necessary as it might have been even then. I don't know.
Yeah.
They say, is it just about companionship, or does the zhazhazhu get in the way? It depends on the person. I mean, there are people that are kind of asexual that really just don't have that like strong sex drive. So if it works for them, it works for me. So Charlotte realizes she's now officially in a relationship with Harry, and she's just like, what is going on? And so she invites him to come to this wedding, but she says you have to get your back waxed in order to go to the wedding. And he's willing to do just about anything for her except for get married to a non-Jew. That's the only thing.
I love how Harry just takes this in stride. Like, I can imagine saying this to someone I was dating. Like, it's so rude.
Yes, agree 100%. She's really hard on him. Yeah. And his ability to laugh it off is incredible. I don't know anyone who has that big of a sense of humor about themselves, especially like this is a person that you are falling in love with, and they take issue with everything about you, and he just laughs it off.
Yeah, that's true.
Because she is mean. Like, even in the last episode, when she is like, when she keeps saying he can't even have a conversation with her. She's like, this is just sex. No matter what he says. She's like, and he asks her to dinner. She's like, this is just sex. It's crazy.
Well, it's kind of surprising too, because Charlotte has never seemed that obsessed, looks focused. I mean, is there that different between Trey and Harry? I mean, I don't know. Neither of them are like supermodels.
I think Trey on paper and like that look, like I actually think they're both equally attractive in very different ways.
Yeah.
Like, I see it, but I see how Trey is like fits that mold.
Right. Like, I think of their like Trey in the kilt, like that's who she always thought she would probably end up with, right? Like this rich man with like a strong heritage, this like blue blood family. So I think more than anything, Harry is just unexpected to her, and she doesn't understand. She's probably imagined her whole life that she would be with a certain kind of person. She found that person. It ended spectacularly horribly. And then she, so she's kind of, I think, shocked that she is with this sweaty, nerdy, this sweaty, bald, nerdy guy. And she says, like, all the stuff she says about him is so funny. She's like, he's short, he's bald, all these things. And it's like, Charlotte, none of that matters. But it's just not what she pictured for herself.
I think both of them are attractive. I just not in like an alpha male kind of way. They're normal attractive, which is more attractive.
Normal attractive. Rachel's like, I would call them normal attractive.
Yeah, that's right.
I like that classification. Yeah. Normal attractive.
And they say, is it a better strategy to marry a friend versus someone you're super into, I guess. I mean, I think ideally you want both. Hopefully. But Steve brings Miranda lilacs. It is very sweet. And
Miranda's just living a lie here. She's like,
yeah,
we get along great. We have amazing sex. He's the father of my son and is all around wonderful. But that's the problem. And you're like, wait, Miranda, I don't compute.
Well, and she's really, because she says, I'd marry Steve if he was gay. What?
I know. What are you talking about? What did you actually just say, Miranda? That makes no sense.
You like having sex with him. Like, I don't get it. There's not a problem here. And that's the problem, I guess, for Maria.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if she just expected that she was gonna marry, someone like these guys that she works with in her office, an attorney, more slick guy, and Steve's more blue collar. But like at this point, I mean, you have a child together. Like, move on from that.
I mean, it's similar to Charlotte. And I think everyone's kind of grappling with that in this episode. Like, how do you make a relationship work with a person that's very different from you and someone you probably didn't think you would be with or end up with? They're all kind of grappling that. Even Stanford and Marcus.
Yes.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
So Samantha is borrowing Richard's house and she decides to throw this big party. And there's these young women, I guess.
I was dying to hear how you were going to explain.
She said
there were these young ladies.
There. But yes, she gets increasingly more irritated at these young women throughout the course of the party, because they are just there to hang out. And I guess she knows that they are obviously friends of friends, quote unquote, with Richard. I mean, you got to hand it to Richard for allowing her to have this party, I think. They've broken up and everything.
She earned it.
But then you have Stanford being kind of weird about Marcus, and we find out that they haven't had sex for a long time. So they're having problems, which is a bummer because I really like them together.
Oh, I love what Marcus says about Bobby and Bitsy. He's like, maybe he makes her laugh. And I was like, oh yes, Marcus, you sweet angel baby. I love you.
I know.
And then Samantha throws the melons at the women and ruins the window. It's pretty great. Pretty hilarious, I think.
I mean, to watch her, she's usually composed in a public setting like that. I mean, she's a PR professional.
Right.
To see her come unglued and hold those melons on her chest and throw them. Iconic.
Very, very, very funny. Very funny. So Burger's there and he's awkward as usual. But they have some cute little banter and then they dance. And it's cute.
What do you guys think of Burger? Just curious.
So, as someone who did watch the show, not in real time, but afterwards, and, I know where it's going. I don't love how insecure Burger gets, but oh my goodness, am I charmed by him in these episodes. I think that if I was watching this, not knowing where it was going, I would be hoping that he is the one for Carrie. I love that he's a writer. I think he's so handsome. I think he's so funny, self-deprecating. I really, really like Burger.
Well, I love Office Space, so I'm already a Ron Livingston fan, and he is very, very swoon worthy in these scenes. It is frustrating when because you know how it ends up. The post-it note is coming, but he's very, very swoon worthy, I think.
What do you think, Dory?
I mean, you see how their banter is so great. And so it's hard not to think like this is the perfect guy for Carrie. He speaks her language and they seem evenly matched at this point. So you can see why. I mean, I'm sure that at the time when I was watching it, I was rooting for them. Knowing how it ends does color how I feel about him a little bit, but you can see in these early interactions, they just have such a good chemistry, and the back and forth is so fun and funny. And it's like how you want dating to be, like that first kind of when you like someone and you're getting to know them and you're having these conversations and just bouncing things off of each other. It just feels so fun and sweet. But yeah, I'm sure you guys are gonna have a field day when you get into the Burger Carrie relationship in full.
I'm really excited for season 6 because that's probably I think that's the season that's on TBS the most, and so I think it's the season I've actually watched the most randomly. But I'm excited for Smith to appear, and I'm excited for. And I don't really like Alexander, so that's not my favorite in season 6, but I like, Burger, and then the ending is fun.
Oh yeah, Rachel, that is why I watch season 6 the most, because it's on TV. I never realized why thank you for illuminating that for me. My great Sex and the City mysteries.
Yeah. So then Charlotte and Harry are together dancing, and she says, "I think I might be falling in love with you." And then Harry says, "I never thought that you would." And I think that's part of the reason why he is so confident, because he just doesn't even think that it's a possibility. So in a way that I think that gives you a certain degree of like freedom, if you're just like, well, she's never going to be into me, so might as well just like have fun, I guess.
Enjoying every moment, being 100% himself.
Right.
Loving being with her, both sexually and for the pleasure of her company. Like he just loves being around her. But like you said, he's not looking ahead and thinking he needs to impress her.
Right. And then this is when he says, "I have to marry a Jew." And so he's like, "What are we going to do?" And we all know how that ends up resolving. So that's this episode. This one is really good, I think. Very funny, great character development for everybody involved. I guess there's some awkwardness about the whole Bitsy and Bobby thing, but I don't know. It's also kind of interesting, I think, about is it okay to marry your friend that you're not like super turned on to? Is that fine? Or we don't know what other people feel and what their experiences are. So I don't know, but I would give this one a very high score. 9.5. What do you think, Jax?
Yeah, I love this one. And like Dory said, like there's so many iconic moments in it. And we even get like a little glimpse of Miranda like calling Steve. And like I feel like it's like setting up so much heart that's to come in season 6. I think it's a great finale.
What do you think, Dory?
I would give this one a 9 also. I love this episode. It's a great way to end the season. And they do a lot with the shortened season. They still manage to cover a lot of ground, and I totally agree. They really set up what is to come in the next season, especially the first part of season 6. It's a good one.
Yeah. All right. Well, we did it. Let us know if you're listening what you think of these 2 episodes and what score you would give them. We would love to hear in the comments section or on Twitter. You can follow us at City Girls Pod on Twitter. Love to hear that. And Dory, thank you so much for coming on. And this was so fun. And how can people follow you on social media and all that fun stuff?
You can follow me at Dory Benford on Twitter, and also at All the Feels Pod on Twitter if you want to talk Hallmark movies. So yeah, follow me there.
And Jax, what about you?
Jacqueline C tweets on Twitter and Jacqueline Collier on Instagram.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. Also, make sure you're following the podcast at Hallmarkies Pod, Hallmarkies Podcast, all of our social media. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. That really helps us a lot. And if you are watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We are really grateful for that. And we also have our patron group, which is a lot of fun, and our merch store, which has City Girls Pod merch. So definitely take a look at that. And thanks again, Dory. And we'll see you all later. Bye, everyone.
Bye.